So did he indeed, Congressman, answer every question, Richard Kahn? And did you get information that you think is important?
He did answer every question. There were times where he didn't remember or didn't recall things, or he simply didn't have the information we wanted. I would say that it's very hard to believe he didn't know anything wrong was going on. We asked him straight up if he ever asked if Jeffrey Epstein was doing anything illegal, and he didn't ask them. And so I think that's very telling, because he built the infrastructure around Jeffrey Epstein that enabled him to commit these crimes and evade the law, also evade taxes, and build his financial empire that was so connected to his sex trafficking empire.
So we did also hear from Chairman Comer that this accountant was the fifth witness to say he never saw anything suspicious regarding President Trump. He also said he didn't see anything suspicious. That's what he has said in the past. Talk about that question and that answer and what you took away from it.
I took away that, at best, he was willfully ignorant. He never asked the hard questions because he didn't want to know. He probably knew something was up, but he decided that he didn't want to know because he was making so much money. Because remember, he was making millions of dollars, is continuing to make a lot of money out of representing Jeffrey Epstein and now representing his estate. And so, we're going to continue to ask the hard questions as this go on. A couple other things that were interesting to me was we asked him about whether there are any financial transactions between Epstein and other heads of state or politicians, and he did mention the name Ehud Barak. I remember Virginia Giuffre had mentioned that a former Israeli prime minister, which Ehud Barak is, had violently raped her, and so that's a name that we're going to continue to look into as well now. And we also asked him about the settlement program. And, he was proud of this program he set up, but a lot of the survivors have said that it has not been distributed fairly, that they've been trying to minimize the amount of distributions. We asked about specifically if one of Trump's accusers had actually gotten a settlement, and he did confirm that. And so that's just a couple things that we got out of it so far. We have a lot more questions about the infrastructure that he and other lawyers and accountants built around Jeffrey Epstein.
I think as you look at where congressional efforts go next, I've heard suggestions that what really needs to happen, because there were these investigations, that's where all these documents have come from, right? You need to talk to the prosecutors, you need to talk to the agents, the investigators who looked into it, and ask them why more people were never brought in for prosecution. But do you think it's at all likely that could happen?
I would absolutely support that. I think there needs to be a reopening of this investigation by justice and by other law enforcement, because they didn't investigate so many people. Richard Kahn, the accountant, was never actually investigated in a criminal hearing. He was only investigated in civil situations where he could settle out of having to answer certain questions. So again, this was a failure of law enforcement. The American government and governments around the world failed victims over and over and over again, and we want to make sure it never happens again.
Congressman, I know you need to get back in, but Subramanyam, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it.